On this episode of the Workers Podcast, we're heading to the front line of workplace representation. The role of shop stewards, that's what we'll be looking at. Now, often described as the backbone of any strong union, shop stewards are the eyes, ears, and the voice of workers on the ground. They navigate the day-to-day issues on the shop floor. They hold management accountable and ensure workers' rights are upheld. Yes, but what is it really like to be in this role? What challenges do they face and what keeps them going? Today we're joined by James Grayman, a dedicated shop steward. He'll talk to us about the reality of representing workers and why this role is more important now than ever before. Now, whether you're a union member, a workplace leader, or just curious about how real change happens from the ground up, this episode is for you, and you don't want to miss it. Right now, we have the opportunity to welcome with us, as I mentioned earlier, Mr. James Grayman, a shop steward with the Antigua and Barbuda Workers Union.
Pleasure to be here, Anderson. I'm grateful for the opportunity to get and speak about my experience as a shop steward, which may be different from others, but
Okay.
I'll definitely share my experiences and what I would have encountered over the past few years, and hopefully it'll be able to shed some light on how the life of a shop steward basically is.
Excellent. All right, so let's go back to the beginning. How did you come into this role? We had some prior discussions before we got on camera and on recording, and you mentioned you had been functioning sort of, and you had been around the union for quite some time. Tell us how you were ushered into this role of being a shop steward.
I have been around the union for quite a few years. As I mentioned, one of the past presidents, which we know in the village as Johnny Worm, and most we know him as Ezrome probably. And knowing back in the days when I had workers' issues and so on, as a young individual, as a young man growing up, learning the trade and working construction and certain other responsibilities that I would have been doing, working with other different companies. We would often have issues such as lack of water and that sort of stuff, and I would always go to him and ask him questions because he's known in the village and has been at the helm of the union for quite some time. So he will often give me different information, and we'll have different conversations about scenarios and whatnot, and he'll give me some of his experience, and based on that, he kind of enlightened me a bit in terms of knowing what the union is about. Then after I would have left Antigua, because I used to participate in sports. I'm not sure if anyone knows that I'm still the national record holder for Antigua, still ranked in the top 100 in the world as an Olympic athlete and high jumper.
Excellent.
Representing the country over a number of years. And after I would have finished with my sporting career and moved back to Antigua, that's when I got into the work field.
Okay.
So there were a lot of things that I wasn't sure about, or a lot of things that were happening at the different areas where I work. So I tend to come to the union often to get information and ask questions because of Johnny Worm, as we know as Ezrome, was around at the time. Then after being employed at, I won't mention the company's name, but a few other establishments, and working together with their shop stewards that were there at the time, they offered some encouragement and some advice, and also ushered me to get into the shop steward thing and understand workers' right, because it is extremely important to know. So you don't ever get the feeling as an employee that you're being taken advantage of.
Okay, so that's the journey.
Right.
But was there a defining moment or perhaps a series of events that really motivated you or pushed you into that role? And bearing in mind also that sometimes people, and I've seen this, are reluctant to take on the position of being a shop steward because they think that they'll become a target for management and that sort of thing. How did you handle that? What was your thought process, when you were going into that role?
To be honest, where I am now at Columbian Emeralds, shop steward has never really been something that I aspire to be. I mostly
Okay.
aspire to educate myself on what the laws are, what the rules are,
Yeah.
what the company policies are, and make sure that I'm walking that line
Mhm.
where I know the difference rather than not know and put myself in a situation
Yeah.
where it cause certain consequences. So based on my hunger for education in terms of what the policies are, what our, how should I put it, what our rights are
Right.
as employees, I began trotting that line and being on that path with the company I work for, with Colombian Emeralds. There has always been tension because there's always been a gap that was missing since I've been there.
Mhm.
There wasn't any shop steward
Mhm.
when I started. I wasn't sure if somebody was there and they were in the background hiding, and they were afraid to come forward to the front, or they were maybe recently promoted or something like that. These things do happen.
Okay.
Shop
Yeah.
stewards get promoted to management position,
Yeah.
and nobody else wants to take up the mantle.
Mhm.
So I want to believe it was a situation like that before I got there. So after being in a few back and forth conversations with management, with the treatment of staff and treatment of employees, and some basic things that I think employees should have or should
Yeah.
be in place that weren't there, it kind of sparked me on that road for being the shop steward for the company. Whereas I was very outspoken.
Mhm.
I'm a person that I'm not afraid, and I'm not scared to have a conversation, whether you're the CEO, whether you're the manager. It doesn't matter who you are. I'm always open to having a conversation to learn more and understand understand the issues, or how we can get to better solutions so employee and the company can work better. And based on some of the experiences that I had there at Colombian Emeralds, I didn't really put myself in the position. The position was basically, I would say, bestowed upon me.
Okay.
Because based on my colleagues and so on, they were like, man, I would say I've been acting in that position for about 3 years before I was actually officially
Okay.
nominated as the shop steward. Because as I said, my colleagues would mostly come to me with their issues, and they know that I hunger and thirst for the information in regards to workers' rights and the
Yeah.
laws and so on. So they will often come to me with questions. Now we go and do my research, and I'll come back, and then we have discussions amongst ourselves, amongst the workers group, amongst our work group. And with those discussions, most of the situation come out where I've been victorious with the discussions we've
Wow.
had in reference to the company and
Yeah.
some of the issues that we've had. And because of that, any issue that comes about, they're quick to jump on the phone and call me and say, hey, James, I need to talk to you about a certain situation. I need to hear your advice, or how we can go forward, how we can deal with this. And that became the norm over quite some time. So after COVID hit and a lot of changes were taking place, a lot of persons weren't sure in terms of how their severance thing go, and in terms of how your sick days go and all of that sort of stuff. And some didn't even know that that we had a collective bargaining agreement with between the company and the union. So they were basically going on just what the laws were, without understanding that there was a collective bargaining agreement between the company and the union that we have to go to as a guide time to time to get certain information. So based on me being knowledgeable of all of that, when the opportunity came about where there were certain situations to be dealt with, and our representative, which is Mr. Messiah, sometimes as the general secretary, he gets tied up and he gets busy, and he's occupied, and he's not being able to deal with certain issues promptly. So based on that, and we had a conversation, and we started off with one of my colleagues, who's Sharon, who works at the main store down in Heritage Key. She, came to me and spoke to me about being the shop steward, and I'm putting my foot forward into it. So that's how I really, my colleagues basically ushered me into the position, and I accepted it with their blessings.
Excellent. So you mentioned a number of stuff, but describe for me what exactly, and some of it came out in your deliberation just now.
Yeah.
What exactly does a shop steward do? If you were describing it to someone who hasn't had any experience or encounters with shop stewards, how would you describe what the shop steward does?
Well, for me personally, my opinion, a shop steward's role is very important. And with being a shop steward and how you navigate as a shop steward, it comes from a basis of knowing people and being able to communicate and work with people.
Yeah.
Because when you're dealing with a company that has, a lot of employees, everybody has their own personalities and that sort of stuff. They have their own grievances and whatnot. And as a shop steward, you have to be able to break the barrier and be able to communicate with them in order to relay certain information. So for me as a shop steward, I had to put myself in a position where I wasn't comfortable, because even though I'm easygoing and love to have conversations, it's not every day you really want to deal with people. You understand what I mean? I don't mean that in a bad way.
Yeah.
But the role as a shop steward is pivotal in companies and businesses, because the grievances or the issues that staff face, they are very important to how the company moves forward. Because if you're working with a bunch of employees who feel disgruntled and feel like their voices aren't being heard, and there are issues that they need to tackle that they can't get addressed, they're either going to end up resigning or looking for other opportunities, or you're just going to be faced with working with employees who are always disgruntled. So a shop steward role is very, how should I put it? It's a very difficult position to be in most times, but as I said, it comes with understanding people and being able to work along with people. And for me to explain that to somebody, I can only explain based on my personal experiences. And for me, it's a level of being uncomfortable to get comfortable.
Okay. Yeah.
So you have to be uncomfortable with dealing with certain people and with speaking with management and speaking about certain topics that management won't like.
Yeah.
And you can't be afraid. You have to be brave and be able to have sensible or reasonable conversations.
Correct.
And most persons within a workplace who are thinking about maybe a chance of progression or moving forward don't want to be ridiculed with the position of being a shop steward. Our shop steward, our representative, which as I mentioned, Mr. Messiah, he can't be everywhere all the time. So a shop steward role is important to mitigate between the union and the company to get certain information across and be able to enact certain plans and, of course, bring across as I mentioned, the CBA information within our CBA to the employees, that they are aware of what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do, and some changes that are allowed to be made by the company, and and other changes that may happen that the employees may not be aware. So the shop steward plays a pivotal role in communicating between the union and the company in bringing the information together to have to provide better solutions for both employer and employee.
And I like that word that you use a couple of times, communication. The shop steward has to be able to communicate both with his colleagues and the management side from the company, and also with the union.
I would say, I would say communication is important, but on my standpoint, I would say sometimes we shop stewards don't always get it right. We don't always get it right.
At least you're honest.
I have to be honest, because there's sometimes when our passion in terms of the changes that we want to see takes control, and we don't get to really communicate effectively how we should. Because we're so passionate, this is something so simple. How can the company not see this? And we let that passion get to our head rather than, being collective and being calm and be able to communicate our issues in a proper manner or respectable manner that can actually bring about change. So, communication is key, but bear in mind, sometimes we don't always get it right.
And that brings me to another point. Tell us a bit about the type of training that you've received and the training that's involved in being a shop steward, because just as you mentioned, even though there may be shortcomings, let's say, for example, in communication, there's training that helps you to better equipped to manage certain interactions with management and with other colleagues?
Well, I would say for myself personally, is a lot of self-education in terms of doing research. Also listening to the podcast. You guys have a few
Yes, yes.
series, so I make sure that when the podcasts are out, that I give a listen and listen to some of the information. And a few weeks ago, that the union had put on a workshop, which I attended, and those trainings really brought a lot of information to us as shop stewards that put us, kind of set us on the right path. Certain things that we thought were the right way. I mean, after that training, I show a lot of us left thinking that, okay, all right, so that's how you should have handled that situation and whatnot. So, but in terms of my personal training, I have a copy of the labor code, and I have a copy of my company's CBA. So I try to self-educate myself, because each establishment may have different policies that they work with. So it is always important to self-educate yourself and also get a copy of the labor code that you can follow. And I also look up old case laws. From court filings from the industrial court side of it. So it will help you to better understand or mitigate certain situations. So for me personally, is most self-teachings. And as being officially a shop steward for Columbia Members for about 8 months now, although I've been working in the role for maybe about 3 years prior. I mean, we basically had our elections about 8 months ago, where I was nominated. So is only now some training has been rolled out to me on the basis of the union, and being able to speak to my good friend, as I mentioned to you, Mr. Ezrom. If there's any issues, I'll give him a call and have conversations with him. So most of my training so far has been self-taught, but I'm looking forward to the workshops that the union will be putting on, listening to the rest of your podcasts that you will be putting out. And that's how I basically been able to get my training.
And what's exciting for me listening to you is the level of initiative that you've taken to educate yourself.
You have to.
And
As a shop steward, I think you have to.
I think other shop stewards could benefit from taking that sort of approach, being a self-starter.
It is important, because you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're having a conversation with management and you're unprepared.
Yes.
That's the worst situation. That's the worst case scenario that you're going to ever find yourself in. So rather than going unprepared, it's best to always equip yourself with as much knowledge as possible. That could help you, mitigate or deal with those conversations, have those difficult conversations. So, I mean, if you're in the position as shop steward, you have to have that drive to really educate yourself. You can't just be laid back thinking that, it's just as situations come, you deal with it. You have to prepare yourself. Because when the time comes and the time calls for you to, to be able to have certain conversations and you're unprepared, let's just say management is going to walk all over you.
Without mercy.
I've seen it happen. And so it's always important to educate yourself and, try and get as much knowledge as you can. Even if it may be something that has nothing to do with your workplace or the field that you're in or the field that the company that you're in, it's always good to reach out and get all the information, because that information will come and help you at some point in time.
How do you balance representing workers' interests and still maintaining a working relationship with management?
I would say the employees have confidence in me, and they know that I am a person that don't judge, and they're free to come to me and speak to me about any scenario, and they know that I'm going to tell them the truth. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to make up no excuses. So if the CBA, if our collective bargaining agreement says that it's 12 days sick leave, and whether certified or uncertified, I'm not going to try and sugarcoat it. And if you come and say that you took sick leave and there's 12 sick days, and I submitted the sick leave, and I would have lost all my 12 sick days because I submitted the sick leave, I would be like, that is the right way. Because even I believed it at some point in time that it was 12 sick days certified, and then there's another set uncertified. But based on training and educating myself, I get to understand that, whether certified or uncertified is basically the same thing.
Yeah.
So they know that I'm a person that will be frank and straightforward. And if they're wrong, I tell them that they're wrong, and if they need to offer an apology and or whatnot to management. So they know I'm able to handle that because of them, not because of me, because they have that confidence in me and they'll be able to approach me, have some conversation. If they think that I am going on the wrong path, they will also say, hey, you're looking too passionate, you need to calm down and, revisit the conversation or that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's fairly easy for me because as I said, I've been involved in sports for years. So I'm accustomed to multitasking because as an athlete for Antigua back then, I had to be doing my training, still going to school, still doing work on the side and all of that stuff. So multitasking is very easy for me, but the employees at Colombian Emeralds make my job as a shop steward very easy based on their willingness to communicate, have conversation, and no matter how big or how small the issue is, they're always willing to come to me. And even on the level of managers as well and management have no issues coming to me, having a conversation with me to find out, what's the thin line or what's the difference between so and so. Because we all, although it should not be seen as oil and water, it should be seen as we coming together, not the shop stewards, not the company versus employees. We all must come together at some point in time and have conversations because it's about the betterment of everybody, company and employees, going forward. So I've been able to deal with that aspect of it simply because of the employees.
Just listening to you, I can't help but think you're such a model shop steward.
I try to be. I'm not perfect because I do, as I said, I do have my flaws.
Yeah.
And sometimes my passion and my temperament gets the best of me. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not perfect, but it's still a learning process.
Yeah.
And as I said, the employees actually, add a bit of relief to my position as a shop steward.
Another question for you.
Sure.
Do you find that workers have a good understanding of what their rights are?
No, I don't think so. I would say I can't speak for everybody, but for Colombian Emeralds at present right now, I would say there may be 55% knowledgeable, and that is much more than from when I started. Because when I started, I don't think most of us were knowledgeable about our rights and so on in reference to the union and company policies and whatnot and what our rights were.
So there's need for more education.
There's definitely need for more education. And what I actually did, which Mr. Messiah was happy about, because as I said, he's very busy. I created a WhatsApp group with myself and all the other employees, so it's easier, quicker to get information across. Yeah. And for persons who are, who have other family responsibilities outside of work or have second jobs or whatever the case is that are unable to make our meetings at times, I ensure that we do a video call so that they are abreast with what the matters that are being discussed on any training or any information that is being offered. And I myself, I will take snippets of our collective bargaining agreement and snippets of the labor code and the company policies and different scenarios to share in the group to to further educate my colleagues, as well open up the floor for them to ask questions, so we can have conversations on the subjects that I will post in the group. Okay. So I think there is a greater need, not just within my organization, but nationwide, for shop steward or for employees. Yeah. I would say employees to not only educate themselves, but seek to find ways in which you can, get in contact with the union to get information or whatnot to know more about your workers' rights. It is extremely important, and I don't think that we are knowledgeable enough.
Yeah. Now, looking ahead, what changes would you like to see in terms of how shop stewards are supported and also recognized? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Changes I would like to see is shop steward being more bold, because I think although there are some shop stewards who maybe you may be the person in your company that is the most talkative or not be free, not be scared or anything to have conversations, but what changes are you actually bringing to your organization? So you as a shop steward and the changes that you would like to see, you have to become that change that you would like to see. So you have to be more in-depth in trying to learn more about what your role is and what your responsibilities are as a shop steward, and don't stay on the same level that you started. So if the employees would have nominated you as a shop steward and you begin that journey, where you start 5 years ago should not be where you are presently. So if you're a shop steward for the past 5 years and you're still at the same level where you started, then you're definitely not doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So the changes that I would like to see is our shop steward across Antigua, the senior shop stewards and the newcomers, or those potential shop stewards, meet regularly to have conversations and dialogue about situations that they would have faced, maybe previous workplaces or present workplace, or have certain discussions that could shed light on the younger ones, or those who are just coming into that role, or those who probably think that they have it the right way, but based on some industrial action that would have happened with one shop steward being victorious, they're able to share their experiences that will help other shop stewards to elevate themselves or be more educated. So I would like to see that happen. And within the workplace now, to the employees, you have to give your shop stewards that support, because without your support, they cannot do their job effectively. I'm telling you that hands down. And for me, this is why I'm heavy on my colleagues, because with their support, some of the things that we try to get accomplished in terms of raising travel allowance and our raise in terms of negotiation for increasing pay over the 3-year period, we are able to band together and do what we need to do in order to get the increases or the changes that we want. So it is important. As much as maybe you're not favorable of your shop steward, sometimes you have different shop stewards, and some employees would prefer one shop steward, and because this person wasn't elected as a shop steward, whosoever is following that shop steward just automatically become the enemy of the present shop of the person that won. That is not the best way to go. Even though you're in a race within your company for a shop steward position and somebody edges you out and wins, you need to give that person your support and give them your assistance. So the both of you should be working together. So if in any case that person gets promoted to a manager, you're already next in line, ready to take over the mantle. So employee communication and their support is important for shop stewards. So those are the changes that I would like to see: the support for the shop steward and shop stewards coming together to exchange ideas regularly, to have conversations.
What about employers? Do you think employers accord shop stewards the respect that and the treatment that is due to them? Given that they're not necessarily union employees, but at the same time, they represent the union at the workplace. Do they accord the necessary level of respect?
I would say where I am employed, I get that level of respect. I will definitely say that from the management and staff from Columbia Members. I definitely get that level of respect. I can't speak for other shop stewards across Antigua, but I would say before working at Columbia Members, most of the stories that I've heard is there's always been this stigma between management and shop steward, and they don't necessarily get that sort of respect, because companies always see shop stewards as a way of them spending more money, in a sense, or dealing with situations that they would like to keep to themselves rather than it come to light. Because they know when it comes to light, evidently there are going to be changes that have to follow. And sometimes those changes come with a cost. And most time management have issues with shop stewards because of that, and they don't show them the level of respect. And it's sometimes you only get that level of respect after that shop steward would have left. Because where I worked previously before Columbia Members, I assisted the shop steward with certain things, and is only after I left, even though I was seen as the bad person at the time, because there were persons who were in line for positions and they were afraid to, step forward. And I will be frank, the situation was with containers, the work day is from 8 to 5. So when 5 o'clock comes and it's time for the workers to leave, then the establishment is bringing containers. Then wanting the workers, after you would have given them your 8 hours throughout the day, would want the employees now to come and work the containers and, pay them overtime. I was like, overtime is not mandatory. So if you have all your other family or business that you have to attend to, and you would have already living up to your employment agreement, which is you're giving them your 8 hours, then you're not obligated to go beyond that. But then again, it is up to you. Mm-hmm. So, I made a stand, whereas when containers come after 5, that wherever it is that we're going to leave, because what they were paying overtime just wasn't enough. And on top of that, they were on days when most employees are out in busy season, like Christmas season or so on. They were bringing other persons from outside and paying them way more than they were paying us overtime to do the container. So, but there were persons in positions to get in line to get certain positions, so they were reluctant. So they there's always a chosen few that would always be willing to not stand with the fold. But I would say today that after I would have left that establishment, those rules would have changed, and now each employee gets compensated. There's a fee for containers, and once a container comes and you work the container, that fee is split up amongst whosoever. So if the fee is $1,000 and 4 people work the container, it's divided amongst the employees. And they, even up to today, when they see me on the road, they were happy for those changes that I was able to bring about.
Excellent. Now, we can keep going on and on.
But
we have to wind things down.
True.
Now, just in closing, I'll ask you, what advice would you give to someone who is considering taking up the role, and I'll add the responsibilities of being a shop steward?
My advice would be, first and foremost, to educate yourself. You have to know the role that you're about to get into before you get into it. It gets difficult at times, but you have to educate yourself enough to know the level of conversations that you'll be able to have and how you'll be able to help anyone in whatever situation that they may be in. So my first advice would be to educate yourself. Secondly, I would say to be humble, be able to be open-minded, be able to hold conversations, speak with anybody of any class, whether they're down in the mud or they're up there at the top of the table. You have to be able to hold a steady conversation, and believe in yourself. That's the third thing. Believe in yourself. If it's something that you're interested in and you want to go after, you have to put in that work ethic in order to become the outstanding shop steward. So those would be my 3 advice to anyone who's thinking about becoming a shop steward.
Excellent. James, I want to thank you so much for spending time.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much, man. Anderson. Yeah.
Really appreciate you being here on the Workers Podcast. And that's going to do it for us. Again, do join us again for another edition of the Workers Podcast. I'm Anderson Edger. Thanks for joining us.